If it works, we'll stick with it. If it doesn't, we'll try something else. So I think that's been very beneficial, and not only just for the whole family, but each individual child. They are individuals, and we have certainly treated them that way, and they can't all be schooled the same way. And I think that's been really important to know also.
Yeah, the old saying is that you treat all the children the same by treating each one differently. That would work. Let me add one little thing in here on the philosophy side, just to make a clarification. We're much more Socratic in our understanding of how people learn best than we are Dewey, tabula rasa. Don't worry about all that. It's just to say there are a couple of ways to think about education. And the old Greek mind, I'm not saying we actually agree with this, but the way the Greek mind worked was different than what came along later with this tabula rasa. That means a blank slate. And if you think your kids are a blank slate, then you've just got to write it all in on the slate. You've got to put it all in their brain. They're sitting around saying, oh, I could learn if someone would just teach me. The Greek mindset was, with the Socratic dynamic, is the discoveries students would make look like leaps in understanding. And so the Greeks assumed that everything you need to know was already in you, connected to, who knows, the ether or ancestors or whatever. But the students would make such great leaps, they used this word education. E, pretty much ductus, ducere, how it worked into Latin, but it's to lead out from, to draw out from. And so education was something seen as inside the kid that you drew out and just helped them make the discoveries, as opposed to the tabula rasa, I'm going to put it on their brain. If you're in a put it on their brain mode, we'd beg you to repent, maybe silently, alone, but wake up and catch on the fact that these kids can learn. And I can prove it to you. All you have to do is notice, most of you, how much more your children know about computers than you do. And they didn't take classes, and you get the point. They can teach themselves. And that's the game. So practically, what exactly is our system? How'd this game work? Tell the story.
Well, we started out trying to, probably as most of y'all did, trying to do Robinson exactly like he set it out, and discovered it didn't quite work.
No sugar? Do we do no sugar?
Well, no, okay. We were never quite that strict on the TV and the sugar and all that, and that is great if you do that. But just as far as the schooling part of it, we saw that we needed to modify it for us. And like I said before, we've modified it several times. And hopefully better and better each time for our family. You're going to have to figure this out for your family. And now the schedule that we're doing at home now with the last two that we have at home, as they get up each morning and they, 7:30, they're sitting down at the kitchen table together, and they do writing for 30 minutes. And then after that, they do an hour of math, and then an hour of reading, and 30 minutes of exercise next, and then another hour of reading, and of math, and then end with reading. And we've adjusted this so many times, and this is working really well with us, to split the math up and to split the reading up and to end with reading. And the one thing they do later is they do have to go back and correct their papers later in the day, since they're writing for that 30 minutes at the beginning, and then we check them. And
yeah, the writing can be a little longer than 30 minutes. Our kids have gotten really efficient at their writing, so it's usually about that, but it wasn't always that way. It might be 45. We designated an hour, so that's not uncommon. But they write four double-spaced pages. Is that it? 2 full?
No, the younger one does 2, and the older one does 3 at this point.
Okay.
And we'll up.
Yeah, we'll up it. Sorry, I'm supposed to know, but the system adjusts as we go. And the idea behind that is we switched, the two things you need to know is we switched the writing to first, and it was because we concluded that Robinson's point, Art's point, is correct. Getting up and doing the toughest thing you can do first thing in the morning, is reasoning on math. That kind of discipline, that rigor, is a great habit. In fact, our hope is the kids go to college and they have a great advantage. And their advantage is they look at their daily work, and they say, gosh, I don't feel like doing this. So what? And then they get going. Because every day they've just built that habit of just going ahead and doing it. Well, the challenge is, in our mind, is that writing is much harder than math. You may or may not think this to be true, but if you just ponder it, math is only hard because you're adding new things. If you're just doing the same old math every day, it wouldn't be that way at all. But writing, do you know what you're doing when you're writing? Do you know how many hundreds of decisions a person is making when they're generating an idea, choosing words, putting sentences, grammar, punctuation, all that information down? That is rigorous. And people are far more intimidated about their writing than they are their math. Some people don't like math. They hate it. Hatred is not intimidation. But putting words down seems to be a real challenge, which is a part of the reason we kind of designed our own way to teach writing. The reason that we broke up math and the reading, just as we wrestled with it, is we just noticed, and some of the brain research bears this out, there's a certain amount of fatigue that tends to happen. And when we can create a shorter boundary of number of problems and a time limit, the sense of focus in that shorter period is more intense. It's kind of like a wind sprint. And so their speed's better and their focus is better. Their brain gets a break, goes off and reads, again, another focus, and then back to the math. A lot of times, if you ever notice, your brain kind of works on things. It'll gear up and think about some math problems, won't quite get them, go off. I know I've done that in tests. I go off, work on other problems, and later my brain says, psst, here's how you do that. Well, we've just found breaking it up that way keeps their brain a little fresher. And most of life is that way. Most people in college or anywhere aren't going to be in the habit of working in that kind of intense 2 hour, that kind of block. And so trying to teach them a little more of an hour is still a long time, but a bit of a focus was the idea behind it. And so we've checked it out. And the exercise, we throw that in the middle because we kind of like the Greek's observation of getting out of balance. Someone that's all gymnasium and, no intellect, the kind of the dumb jock stereotype, or someone that's all arts and intellect but no athletic, no coordination. We just wanted to add some balance to that whole thing. And there are many other things we supplement, piano lessons, etc. All right, what's next?
Well, and one thing about the exercise in the middle also, we were doing it later in the day and it wasn't happening. And so putting it in the middle of schooling made sure the boys got that part done. And your kids might be involved in sports and that might be your athletics. That's fine. We do think that some form of physical activity is very important. And for us, it was a practicality of, hey, if we stick it in the middle of school, they won't forget it.
Exactly, and they don't. And some of the things they do separately, some of it's weight training, sometimes it's football or basketball, the things they do together. So they're having to learn how to get over conflicts and competition, that kind of thing. So that's all part of that challenge.
Another thing that we did slightly different from Robinson is on Saturdays, our children do math only each Saturday. I know some people that do Robinson don't do any school on Saturday. We find it very important. We've had a little adjustment in the fact that our kids have been allowed to do it whenever they wanted to on Saturday at their own, they didn't have to get up at X time and do it at X time, and that's worked well for our kids. They've gotten it done. That might not work for everyone there again, but we've always done that, and we do also do school in the summer. If they're at church camp, they're at church camp that week, and that's fine if they have something like that going on. But if they're home, they are doing school, and you get up and you do it, and you're through by 12:30 or 1.
Yeah, and so just to explain, because I have to do this to the kids, I get them to think through time.